She said she missed me. Then she stole my family's heirlooms to pay off a gambling debt. I hunted down the truth, faced the thieves, and got my revenge. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. I need to get this off my chest because I feel like I'm losing my mind. To set the stage, I, 28M, broke up with my ex, Sarah, 27F, nearly 4 years ago. It was one of those breakups that should have been the final nail in the coffin. No lingering feelings, no second chances, no let's stay friends BS. We had been together for almost 5 years, and while things started out great, she slowly turned into a person I didn't recognize. There were constant lies, manipulations, and fights that always seemed to be about her needs, her feelings, and her problems while mine were conveniently ignored. When I finally had enough and ended things, she pulled every trick in the book to reel me back in. Tears, guilt-tripping, even trying to make me jealous with new guys. I blocked her on everything and moved on with my life. Or at least, I thought I had. A few weeks ago, Sarah showed up at my house out of nowhere. No warning, no text, just her standing on my doorstep, looking different than I remembered. She had lost weight, her hair was a mess, and she had these dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. I almost didn't recognize her. I should have shut the door in her face. Instead, curiosity got the better of me, and I let her in. She started with small talk, asking about my life, my job, my family. I kept my answers short. Then, she got emotional, said she had made mistakes, that life had been hard on her, and that she missed having someone she could trust. She talked about how her current relationship wasn't what she thought it would be, how she felt trapped, how she just needed someone to listen. I didn't buy all of it, but I let her vent. Maybe it was old habits. Maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe I was just too stupid to see what was coming. After about an hour, she thanked me, said it meant a lot that I listened, and left. That was it. Or so I thought. Later that night, I noticed something was off. My grandmother's jewelry box, a small, ornate thing that had been in our family for generations, was gone from my bedroom. At first, I thought maybe I had misplaced it, but after tearing my place apart, it became obvious. It was gone. And the only person who had been in my house that day? Sarah. I checked my security camera footage, and sure enough, there she was, slipping into my bedroom when I went to grab us drinks from the kitchen. I felt sick. I don't know what I expected when I confronted her. Maybe I thought she'd deny it. Maybe I thought she'd make up some pathetic excuse. But when I finally got her on the phone and told her I knew, she broke down. She admitted everything. She had stolen my family's jewelry to pay off her boyfriend's gambling debt. She begged me not to go to the cops, swore she was desperate, said her boyfriend owed money to dangerous people, and that she had no choice. She claimed she was scared for her life. Now, I have to decide what to do. Do I go to the police and let her deal with the consequences? Do I try to track down the jewelry myself and get it back before it's too late? Do I expose her to her new boyfriend and let them implode on their own? I don't know what the right move is, but I do know one thing. She made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. The moment Sarah admitted she had stolen from me, I felt my blood pressure spike. I don't know what made me angrier. The fact that she had the audacity to come into my home and rob me, or that she actually thought she could guilt-trip me into letting it slide. I took a deep breath and forced myself to stay calm. Where is it? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She hesitated. I don't have it anymore. My stomach dropped. Are you *****ing kidding me, Sarah? I shouted, pacing across my living room. You stole my grandmother's jewelry, stuff that's been in my family for generations, and you don't even have it anymore? She started crying again, but I didn't care. I didn't have a choice, she sobbed. He owed so much money, and these guys, they don't play around. They were threatening him, threatening me. I had to do something. That's not my problem, I snapped. You should have thought of that before you decided to use me as your safety net. She started begging then, pleading, saying she would make it right, that she just needed time. But the more she talked, the more I realized she wasn't actually sorry. She wasn't remorseful for what she did. She was just sorry she got caught. That's when I hung up. I needed to think. I sat down at my desk, head in my hands, trying to process everything. My family was going to kill me when they found out. The jewelry had belonged to my grandmother, passed down to my mom, and eventually, it would have gone to me and my siblings. It wasn't just about money. It was about history, about sentiment. I had a few choices, but none of them felt easy. I could call the police and report her for theft. It was the most straightforward option. She had committed a crime, and she should face the consequences. I could try to track down the jewelry myself before it was gone for good. If she had already sold it, maybe I could find out who bought it and try to get it back. Or I could go after her boyfriend, the reason she did this in the first place. If I exposed what she had done, maybe their whole situation would blow up in her face. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but one thing was certain. Sarah wasn't getting away with this. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind replayed the security footage of Sarah sneaking into my bedroom, rifling through my things like a damn thief. Because that's what she was, a thief. And no amount of tears or excuses could change that. By morning, I knew what I had to do. Calling the police was still an option, but I needed more information first. If the jewelry had already been sold, I had to figure out where before it disappeared forever. I wasn't about to let my family's heirlooms end up in some pawn shop display case, being haggled over by strangers. So I decided to start with Sarah. I tried calling her again, but, big shock, she ignored my calls. Texted her? No response. I wasn't surprised. She knew she had burned whatever small bridge we had left, and now she was trying to avoid me. Fine. I took a different approach. I called a friend of mine, Jake, who works as a private investigator. He mostly deals with cheating spouses and insurance fraud, but I figured tracking down stolen jewelry wasn't too far off from what he normally did. Jake picked up on the second ring. Yo, man. Long time no talk. What's up? Hey, listen, I need a favor, I said, getting straight to the point. You got time to track something down for me? Depends. What are we talking about? My ex stole some family heirlooms. I need to find out where she sold them before it's too late. Jake let out a low whistle. Damn. She sounds like a real winner. You have no idea? All right, send me her full name, a recent photo if you have one, and anything else that might help. I'll see what I can dig up. I sent everything over, and then tried to keep myself busy while waiting for Jake to get back to me. But I couldn't focus on anything. I was too angry, too restless. So I decided to track down Sarah myself. I didn't want to sit around waiting for Jake to get back to me. Every minute that passed was another chance for the jewelry to be sold off to some shady pawn shop or worse, melted down for cash. I had to move. I decided to check Sarah's old apartment first. I wasn't even sure if she still lived there, but I figured it was worth a shot. The place was a rundown complex on the other side of town, the kind where the paint peeled off the walls, and the parking lot always had at least one abandoned car with missing tires. I remembered coming here when we were together, back when I still believed she was someone worth my time. I parked and walked up the stairs to her unit, knocking hard. No answer. I knocked again, and this time, a door across the hall creaked open. An older woman peeked out, her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. I remembered her vaguely from the handful of times I had been here. She always seemed to be watching, like she didn't miss a damn thing that happened in the building. You looking for Sarah? She asked, eyeing me warily. Yeah, I said. She still live here? Mrs. Thompson shook her head. Moved out a few months ago. Some guy was always coming around, causing trouble. Looked like she was in a bad way. That sounded about right. You know where she went? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She hesitated, chewing on the inside of her cheek like she was debating whether to tell me. She was staying with some guy. He'd pick her up sometimes, loud, flashy car. Real piece of work. Always arguing with her in the hallway. Never liked him. My stomach twisted. You know his name? She nodded. Think it was Tyler. Don't know the last name, but if you find him, you'll probably find her. Tyler. I didn't know a Tyler. Not personally, anyway. But I had a feeling this was the guy she had mentioned over the phone, the one she had stolen from me to help. And if he was the type to cause trouble in a place like this, I doubted he was some misunderstood victim of bad luck. Did she say anything about what she was up to? I pressed. Like, if she was selling things? Mrs. Thompson frowned. Not to me, but I saw her leave with a little wooden box the last time she was here. Was holding onto it real tight, like it meant something. I felt my hands clench into fists. That was it. My grandmother's jewelry box. How long ago was this? I asked. Maybe a week, she said. Haven't seen her since. That meant there was still a chance, a small, fleeting chance, that the jewelry wasn't gone yet. I thanked Mrs. Thompson and jogged back to my car, my pulse pounding. I had a name now, and that was enough to start. I needed to find this Tyler guy, figure out where Sarah had taken my jewelry, and get it back before it was too late. I wasn't even sure what I would do when I found them. All I knew was that I was done playing nice. Now that I had a name, Tyler, I needed to figure out where to find him. If Sarah had been staying with him, there had to be a way to track him down. I called Jake again. Got anything for me? I asked the second he picked up. Yeah, actually, Jake said. Your ex has been spotted hanging around a dive bar called the Rusty Nail. Place has a reputation. Shady types, underground poker games, guys looking to make a quick buck. If her boyfriend's a gambler, there's a good chance he's connected to someone there. I sighed. Figures. You want me to come with you? Nah, I said. I'll handle it. I wasn't interested in backup. I just wanted answers. The Rusty Nail. I pulled up outside the Rusty Nail an hour later. It was the kind of place that looked like a bad decision even from the parking lot. A flickering neon sign barely lit up the entrance, and the smell of cigarette smoke and cheap beer drifted out whenever someone opened the door. I wasn't even sure what my plan was. Walk in, start asking questions? Hope Sarah was inside and force her to talk? Didn't matter. I was already here. The second I stepped inside, I felt eyes on me. The place was dimly lit, loud, and filled with the kind of people who looked like they either owed someone money or were collecting it. A few guys were hunched over a pool table in the back, and in the farthest booth, I spotted Sarah. And next to her, a guy I assumed was Tyler. He looked exactly like the kind of guy you expect to find in a place like this. Cocky smirk, flashy watch, designer hoodie, and an attitude that screamed, I think I'm important. He had one arm draped lazily over Sarah's shoulder, talking and laughing with a couple of guys who looked just as sketchy as he did. My stomach twisted. Sarah had stolen from me to help this guy? I made my way over to their table, and the moment Sarah saw me, her face went pale. Oh my God, she started, but I cut her off. Where is it? I asked, my voice low but firm. Tyler barely looked up from his drink. Who the hell are you? I ignored him. Sarah, I'm not playing games. You stole from me. You're gonna tell me where it is right now? Sarah swallowed hard. I don't have it anymore. I slammed my hands down on the table, making her jump. Wrong answer. That got Tyler's attention. He leaned forward, finally taking me seriously. Hey, buddy, you want to back off? You're making my girl nervous. His girl. I nearly laughed. Sarah looked from me to Tyler, her eyes darting around like she was trying to figure out which one of us was the bigger threat. He sold it, she blurted out. I froze. Tyler sighed dramatically and leaned back in his seat. Oh, for F***'s sake, Sarah, you just gonna snitch like that? I turned on him. You sold it? He smirked. Yeah, I did. Needed the cash. What of it? My fists clenched at my sides. I had come here hoping to find the jewelry intact, but this bastard had already gotten rid of it. Who did you sell it to? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Tyler shrugged. Some guys who do business out of the pool hall on 8th Street. They don't ask questions, they just take what they want and pay what they feel like. Good luck getting it back, though. Sarah looked like she was about to cry. I looked Tyler dead in the eye. You better hope I do. I turned on my heel and walked out before I did something that would get me arrested. Now, I had a new lead, and I wasn't stopping until I got my family's jewelry back. I sat in my car outside the Rusty Nail, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I was fuming. Tyler was just as much of a piece of garbage as I expected, maybe even worse. He didn't give a damn that Sarah had stolen from me. Hell, he probably encouraged it. And now, because of him, my family's heirlooms were in the hands of some underground dealers who wouldn't think twice about screwing me over. I should have expected this. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head. Anger wasn't going to get the jewelry back. I needed to be smart. I pulled out my phone and called Jake again. Let me guess, he answered. Things didn't go smoothly. You could say that, I muttered. I found the guy. He already sold the jewelry to some people at the pool hall on 8th Street. Jake let out a low whistle. You sure you want to go there alone? That place isn't exactly friendly to outsiders. I don't have a choice, I said. I have to get it back before it disappears for good. Jake hesitated. All right. I know a guy who used to deal with them. I'll see if he can give me some names, but be careful. These aren't the kind of people you want to piss off. Yeah, well, they're about to find out I'm not the kind of guy they want to screw over. I hung up and started the car. The place looked normal enough from the outside. Just a regular, run-down billiards joint with flickering neon signs and a parking lot full of beat-up cars. But I knew better. This wasn't just a pool hall. It was a hub for all sorts of illegal business. If something shady was being bought or sold in this part of town, chances were it passed through here at some point. I stepped inside, and the air immediately felt heavier. The room was dimly lit, filled with cigarette smoke, and packed with men who looked like they had more enemies than friends. A couple of guys were playing pool, while others leaned against the bar, nursing cheap whiskey. Nobody paid attention to me at first, but that wouldn't last. I didn't belong here, and they could tell. I walked up to the bar and caught the bartender's eye. "I'm looking for someone," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I was told some guys here might have bought some valuable items recently." The bartender, a burly guy with tattoos up both arms, didn't react at first. Then he smirked. "You're talking about Vic and his crew," he said, wiping a glass. "They do all kinds of business. What's it to you?" "Something of mine was stolen and sold to them. I just want it back." The bartender snorted. "Yeah? Good luck with that." Before I could press further, a voice spoke up behind me. "Somebody looking for me?" I turned to see a man in his late 40s, tall and broad-shouldered, with slicked-back gray hair and a scar running down his cheek. He looked like someone who had seen his fair share of fights, and won most of them. "This had to be Vic. You're the one who bought some jewelry off a guy named Tyler," I said, getting straight to the point. Vic raised an eyebrow. "And if I am?" I clenched my jaw. "It wasn't his to sell. It belongs to my family. I want it back." Vic chuckled, looking me up and down like he was sizing me up. "That's not how this works, kid. I paid for that stuff. It's mine now." I expected that answer, but I wasn't leaving without a fight. Vic leaned against the bar, arms crossed, smirking like he had all the time in the world. I could feel the weight of the room shift. Conversations had quieted. Pool cues rested against tables. A few guys turned in their seats, watching, waiting. This was their turf, their game, and I was the outsider walking in, demanding things I had no right to demand. But I wasn't backing down. I took a slow breath. "Look, I get it. You paid for the jewelry, but the guy who sold it to you? He stole it from me. It's not his to sell. That makes this whole thing a problem, for both of us." Vic scoffed. "Oh yeah? And what problem do I have exactly?" "You're sitting on stolen goods," I said, keeping my voice level. "That means if I walk out of here and report it, this place gets a whole lot of heat. Cops start sniffing around, asking questions. And I'm guessing you don't want that." A few of the guys nearby shifted uncomfortably. Even the bartender stopped wiping the glass in his hand. "Vic, though?" He just chuckled. "You think I'm scared of the cops?" "I think you're smart enough to know they're a pain in the ass," I countered. "And I doubt you want them breathing down your neck over some jewelry you probably don't even care about." Vic studied me for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it. "You've got balls, kid. I'll give you that. But here's the thing. You coming in here, making threats? That's not how you get things done." I exhaled sharply. "So what will?" Vic took a drag and then smirked. "Money. You want your jewelry back? Buy it back." "Of course. How much?" I asked. Vic tilted his head. "Let's see. I paid Tyler $2,000 for the lot." He exhaled smoke through his nose, eyes gleaming. "But you? You're not just some random buyer. You're desperate. So my price is $5,000. I clenched my fists. $5,000. I had money saved up, but dropping $5,000 to buy back my own family's heirlooms? It made my blood boil. But I didn't have time to argue. If I left and tried to get the police involved, the jewelry would be gone before I could do anything about it. That was just how guys like Vic operated. I had to act now. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. "Fine. I'll transfer it now." Vic grinned, pulling a second phone from his pocket. Smart choice. A few minutes later, after the transfer was confirmed, Vic nodded to one of his guys. "Go get the stuff." A younger guy disappeared into a back room and returned a minute later, carrying a small black duffel bag. He handed it to Vic, who unzipped it, pulled out my grandmother's jewelry box, and set it on the bar. "Here you go," he said casually, as if we'd just wrapped up a normal business transaction. I grabbed the box, flipping it open. There it was. My grandmother's necklace. The pearl earrings. The gold bracelets. Everything. Relief flooded through me, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I shut the box, tucked it under my arm, and turned to leave. "Pleasure doing business," Vic called after me. I didn't respond. I just walked out, gripping the jewelry box like my life depended on it. But this wasn't over yet, because now, I had one last thing to take care of. Sarah and Tyler weren't getting away with this. I sat in my car outside the pool hall for a few minutes, gripping the jewelry box like it might vanish if I let go. It was over, at least the part that mattered. I had my family's heirlooms back. I should have felt relieved. I should have driven straight home, locked the jewelry away, and never thought about Sarah or Tyler again. But I couldn't let it go. Sarah had chosen this. She had walked into my home, pretended to want to talk, and then stole from me without a second thought. And Tyler? He took what wasn't his, pawned it off, and acted like I was the idiot for caring. They both deserved what was coming. I started my car and drove. Not home. To Sarah. I found them exactly where I expected, the rusty nail. When I walked in, Sarah was still in the same booth, nursing what looked like her third or fourth drink. Tyler was across from her, running his mouth, bragging about something. Neither of them saw me coming. I walked straight to their table and slammed the jewelry box down between them. The sound made Sarah jump. Tyler blinked at it, then at me. Oh, look who's back. Sarah, on the other hand, looked like she was about to be sick. Oh my God. You should be praying to him right about now, I said coldly. Because he's the only one who's gonna save you from what's coming. Tyler chuckled. What? You gonna cry about it? You got your little trinkets back. We're done here. I leaned in. We're not done. Not even close. Sarah finally found her voice. Listen, Shut up, Sarah. I cut her off. I let you in. I listened to you. And while you were sitting there, pretending to give a damn about our history, you were robbing me. She looked down at the table, ashamed. Or maybe just scared. You stole from me, I continued. And instead of coming clean, you let this piece of garbage sell my family's history to a bunch of criminals. Tyler rolled his eyes. Oh, boo-hoo. Get over it. I snapped. Before I even realized what I was doing, I grabbed the drink in front of Sarah and threw it straight into Tyler's face. The whole bar went silent. Tyler shot up from his seat, swiping at his soaked hoodie. What the F********? You got two choices, I said, voice like steel. You pay me back the $5,000 I just spent because of you, or I call the cops. Right now. Tyler laughed, shaking his head. Man, you think I got $5,000 just lying around? I smirked. Then I guess you'd better start running, because I just sent your name to a guy who knows the people you owe money to. Sarah gasped. You what? You heard me, I said, my gaze locked on Tyler. By now, the people you screwed over know exactly where to find you. For the first time, Tyler actually looked nervous. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone, turned it around, and showed him the texts I had sent to Jake, along with a name Tyler would definitely recognize. One of the loan sharks he was avoiding. Tyler's face went pale. Sarah clutched his arm. Tyler, what's he talking about? Tyler shoved her off. We gotta go. He scrambled out of the booth, nearly knocking over a chair. Sarah looked from me to him, her eyes filling with realization. Wait, you're leaving? He didn't even respond. He just ran out of the bar. Sarah sat there, frozen. Her eyes flicked back to me, a mix of anger and desperation in them. You just ruined his life. I gave her the coldest look I could muster. No, Sarah, you did. And with that, I picked up my jewelry box, turned my back on her for good, and walked away. The rush of adrenaline didn't wear off until I was back in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I watched Tyler's taillights disappear as he sped off into the night, running from the storm he had created. Sarah, though? She wasn't going anywhere. I glanced in my rearview mirror and saw her stumbling out of the rusty nail, looking around frantically, probably hoping Tyler would come back for her. He wouldn't. He had made his choice, and she was just another loose end he didn't care about. For a brief moment, I considered rolling down my window and saying something. One final word to drive the point home. But no, she wasn't worth it. I took a deep breath, started my car, and pulled away. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter. For the first time since Sarah had reappeared in my life, I wasn't drowning in anger. I wasn't stewing over betrayal or planning my next move. It was over. I had my family's jewelry back. Tyler was on the run. Sarah? She was left picking up the pieces of the life she had wrecked. And me? I was finally free. But there was still one last thing to take care of. I picked up my phone and called my mother. She answered on the second ring. Hey, sweetie. Everything okay? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, Mom. Everything's fine. Listen, I need to bring something over to you. Walking into my parents' house felt different that day. For years, I had been carrying the weight of that jewelry, knowing it wasn't just gold and gemstones, but the history of my family, my grandmother's legacy, and I had almost lost it. My mom's eyes widened when she saw the jewelry box in my hands. Oh my God, where did you find this? I set it down on the kitchen table, exhaling deeply. It's a long story, but it's back where it belongs now. She reached for it with shaking hands, carefully opening the lid. When she saw the familiar pieces inside, the necklace she used to see on her mother's neck, the earrings that had been worn on special occasions, Tears filled her eyes. I thought we'd never see these again, she whispered. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Neither did I. She looked up at me then, eyes filled with something deeper than gratitude, pride. You did the right thing, she said softly. And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it. The jewelry was back where it belonged. That should have been the end of it. But as I sat across from my mother in her kitchen, watching her run her fingers over the delicate gold chain my grandmother used to wear, I realized something. This wasn't just about the jewelry. It was about trust, about betrayal, about finally closing the door on a part of my life that should have stayed buried years ago. Sarah had been my past, and that's exactly where she needed to stay. Later that night, as I sat on my couch with a cold beer, my phone buzzed with a text. Sarah. For a second, I considered deleting it without reading, but curiosity got the better of me. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I know if **ed up. I know you'll never forgive me, but I didn't think it would end like this. I stared at the screen. A part of me wanted to reply, to say something cruel, to tell her that she had done this to herself. Instead, I did the one thing I should have done the second she showed up at my door. I blocked her number. No more second chances. No more explanations. No more Sarah. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Tyler had finally run out of places to hide. The people he owed money to? They found him. And from what I was told, it wasn't pretty. Sarah? She had disappeared from my world completely, and I wasn't going to waste time wondering what happened to her. She wasn't my problem anymore. As for me, I finally felt like I could breathe again. I had spent too much of my life carrying the weight of people who didn't deserve space in my head. But now, I was done. No more looking back. No more regrets. Just forward. And damn, it felt good.